Daniel Hayes checked the navigation screen for the third time in 10 minutes. The cargo route to the mining colonies was supposed to be quiet this time of year. Most pirates moved to the inner systems, where the trade convoys ran thick with valuable goods. Out here, near the edge of Cravathi space, there was nothing but empty darkness and distant stars. That was why the distress beacon bothered him so much. His ship, the Morning Star, was not built for rescue operations. She was a small cargo hauler, barely large enough for one person to live comfortably. Daniel had chosen this life after leaving his job as a colony security officer 5 years ago. He wanted peace. He wanted quiet. He wanted to forget the things he had failed to prevent. The beacon pulsed again on his screen. Someone needed help. Daniel rubbed his face with both hands and made his decision. He turned the Morning Star toward the signal. His cargo would be late, and he would lose money on the contract, but he could not fly past someone in trouble. That was not who he was. The source of the beacon came into view 20 minutes later. A small shuttle drifted in space, its hull torn open in 3 places. Scorch marks covered the exterior. Weapons fire. Recent. By the look of it, Daniel moved his ship closer and scanned the shuttle. The design was Cravathi. That made his stomach tight. The Cravathi were a species that looked like massive tigers, walking on 2 legs. They were warriors, proud and fierce. Their empire controlled dozens of star systems, and their military was feared across the galaxy. They did not like other species much, and they especially looked down on humans as weak and small. But someone on that shuttle had called for help. Daniel docked his ship to the shuttle's emergency airlock. He pulled on his pressure suit and checked his pistol. Pirates often used fake distress beacons to lure in rescue ships. He had to be careful. The airlock opened with a hiss. Daniel stepped into the shuttle and immediately smelled blood. The emergency lights cast everything in red. He moved forward slowly, his pistol ready. The main cabin was a disaster. Equipment was smashed. The walls were scorched. And in the center of the floor lay a Cravathi adult, its orange and black striped fur matted with blood. The alien was huge, nearly 8 feet tall even lying down. Its breathing was shallow and wet. Then Daniel heard the sound. A small, frightened whimper. He turned and saw them. 3 small Cravathi cubs, huddled in the corner behind an overturned seat. They could not have been more than children by any species measure. Their fur was fluffier than the adults. Their stripes, less defined. The largest cub, maybe equivalent to a 7-year-old human child, bared tiny fangs at Daniel and tried to look dangerous. The other 2 pressed close behind their sibling. The wounded adult on the floor made a gurgling sound. Daniel knelt beside the Cravathi, keeping his movements slow. The alien's eyes focused on him with difficulty. "Please," the Cravathi said in heavily accented Galactic Common, the language most species used for trade and diplomacy. "The cubs. They killed everyone. Take the cubs. I will get you medical help," Daniel said. He reached for his emergency medical kit. The Cravathi's large paw grabbed Daniel's wrist with surprising strength. "No time. I am Kelvin. Ambassador. The cubs are nobility. House of Sareth. Enemies want them dead. They sent pirates. You must take them to safety." "Where?" Daniel asked. "Where do I take them?" "Cannot trust official channels. Conspiracy in the government. Promise me." Kelvin's breathing became more labored. "Promise. You will protect them." Daniel looked at the 3 terrified cubs. They stared back at him with wide, golden eyes. The largest cub growled softly, still trying to be brave. "I promise," Daniel said. Kelvin's grip relaxed. "They are called Leo, Maya, and Kit. Tell them their mother loves them. Tell them to be strong." The ambassador's eyes closed. His breathing stopped. Daniel sat back on his heels. He had just promised a dying alien that he would protect 3 Cravathi cubs who were apparently targets of assassination. This was the exact opposite of the quiet trading life he wanted. The largest cub, Leo, made a sound that was half growl and half sob. Daniel turned to look at the 3 cubs. They were shaking. Kit, the smallest, had pressed its face into Maya's shoulder. "I am not going to hurt you," Daniel said slowly in Galactic Common. He did not know if they understood. He kept his hands visible and his movements careful. "My name is Daniel. I am going to take you somewhere safe." Leo said something in the Cravathi language. It sounded angry and scared at the same time. "I know you do not trust me," Daniel continued. "But your guardian asked me to protect you. I will do that. I promise." He stood slowly and backed toward the airlock. The cubs watched his every movement. Daniel gestured for them to follow. "We need to leave. Bad people are coming. We need to go now." Maya, the middle cub, said something to Leo. There was a brief exchange in their language. Finally, Leo stood up, though the cub kept its body between Daniel and the other two. The three cubs followed Daniel into the Morning Star. Daniel sealed the airlock behind them and ran to the cockpit. His scanners were already screaming warnings. 3 ships had appeared on the edge of sensor range. They were moving fast. Pirates, judging by their unregistered signatures. He strapped into the pilot seat and fired up the engines. The Morning Star was not a combat ship, but she was fast when she needed to be. Daniel plotted a jump to hyperspace and prayed the coordinates were clear. Behind him, he heard the cubs making frightened sounds. They had never been on a human ship before. Everything would be strange and scary to them. "Hold on," Daniel called back to them. "This is going to feel weird." The Morning Star jumped to hyperspace just as the pirate ships came into weapons range. The stars stretched and blurred. The ship shuddered and then settled into the strange calm of faster-than-light travel. Daniel let out a breath he did not know he had been holding. They were safe. For now, he unbuckled and turned around. The 3 cubs had huddled together near the cargo hold door. They were staring at him with fear and suspicion. Leo still had its lips pulled back to show small fangs. Daniel sat down on the floor several feet away from them. He wanted to seem less threatening. "I know you are scared," he said softly. "I know you do not know me. But I am going to keep you safe. That is what I promised." None of the cubs responded. Kit had started to cry, making small mewling sounds. Daniel felt his heart break a little. These were children. They had just watched their guardian die. They were alone with a strange alien in an unfamiliar place. And somewhere out there, people wanted them dead. He had no idea how to take care of Cravathi cubs. He did not know what they ate or needed. He did not speak their language. And he had just made himself a target by rescuing them. But he had made a promise. Daniel stood and moved to his small medical station. He pulled out a scanner and some basic supplies. "I need to check if you are hurt," he said to the cubs. "I will not come too close if you do not want me to, but I need to make sure you are okay." Leo said something sharp in Cravathi. The tone was clear enough. "Stay back." "All right," Daniel said. He set the medical supplies on the floor between them and backed away. "When you are ready." He returned to the cockpit and began plotting a course to nowhere in particular. He just needed to keep moving, keep running, keep the cubs alive long enough to figure out what to do next. Behind him, he heard Maya whisper something to her siblings. Daniel did not understand the words, but he understood the fear in her voice. He had saved them from the pirates. Now he had to figure out how to save them from everything else. The first 2 days were the hardest. Daniel had converted his cargo hold into a living space for the cubs. He moved boxes and equipment to create an area where they could sleep and move around. It was not much, but it was better than keeping them in the cramped cockpit. He gave them blankets and tried to make the space comfortable. The cubs stayed in the far corner and watched him with suspicious eyes. Food was the first problem. Daniel searched his database for information about Cravathi biology. They were carnivores. They could only eat meat. Daniel's supplies included some frozen protein rations meant for human consumption, but he had no idea if they were safe for Cravathi cubs. He thawed a portion and brought it to the cargo hold. He set the food near the door and backed away. "I know this is not what you usually eat," he said, "but it is what I have right now. Please try it." Leo sniffed the air and wrinkled its nose. The cub said something in Cravathi that sounded insulting. But after Daniel left, he checked the camera feed and saw Maya cautiously approach the food. She took a small bite, chewed carefully, and then brought some back to her siblings. They ate, though they did not look happy about it. At least they would not starve. Medical care was the second problem. Daniel could see that Maya had a cut on her arm, and Kit seemed to favor one leg, but every time he tried to approach with the medical scanner, Leo would position itself between Daniel and the other cubs. The eldest cub would growl and show its fangs, making it clear that Daniel needed to stay back. Daniel tried to be patient. He knew they were traumatized and scared. He knew they had been taught not to trust other species. He could not force them to accept his help. On the third day, Kit's leg got worse. The smallest cub started limping badly and would not put weight on it. Daniel watched through the camera and saw Kit trying not to cry. Maya and Leo were clearly worried. Talking to their sibling in soft, urgent tones, Daniel made a decision. He gathered his medical supplies and entered the cargo hold. Leo immediately jumped up and positioned itself defensively. "Your sibling is hurt," Daniel said calmly. "I need to look at the leg. I will not hurt Kit. I promise," Leo growled. The sound was higher pitched than an adult Cravathi's growl, but it still carried a clear warning. "I know you do not trust me," Daniel continued. He sat down on the floor and set the medical supplies in front of him. "But if I wanted to hurt you, I could have done it already. I could have left you on that shuttle. I could have turned you over to the pirates. But I did not. I brought you here to keep you safe." He picked up the scanner slowly, making sure Leo could see every movement. "This device will tell me what is wrong with Kit's leg. It does not hurt. See?" He ran the scanner over his own arm. The device beeped and showed a holographic image of the bones and muscles underneath his skin. Just light. No pain. Maya watched with interest. She said something to Leo in Cravathi. The eldest cub shook its head, but Maya spoke again, more insistent this time. Kit whimpered softly. The smallest cub was clearly in pain. Finally, Leo stepped aside but did not move far. The cub's golden eyes watched Daniel's every movement. Daniel crawled forward slowly. He kept his hands visible. When he reached Kit, he smiled gently. "Hey there, little one. I'm going to help. This might feel strange, but it will not hurt. I promise." Kit looked at Maya, who nodded encouragingly. The smallest cub extended its injured leg with obvious reluctance. Daniel ran the scanner over the leg and studied the results. There was an infection in a wound near the ankle. Not serious yet, but it would get worse if left untreated. He would need to clean the wound and apply antibiotic gel. "This next part might sting a little," Daniel said. He showed Kit the cleaning solution. "But only for a moment. Then it will feel better. Can you be brave?" Quote 7. Kit's ears flattened against its head, but the cub nodded slightly. Daniel worked as gently as he could. He cleaned the wound while speaking in a calm, steady voice. He explained everything he was doing. When Kit flinched, Maya moved closer and held her sibling's paw. Leo watched from 2 feet away, ready to intervene if Daniel did anything threatening. The antibiotic gel went on smoothly. Daniel wrapped the leg in a light bandage. "There," he said. "All done. You were very brave, Kit." The smallest cub looked at its bandaged leg and then at Daniel. For the first time, there was no fear in those golden eyes. Just curiosity. Daniel gathered his supplies and stood to leave. As he reached the door, Maya spoke. "Thank you." The words were heavily accented but clear in Galactic common. Daniel turned and smiled. "You are welcome." Over the next few days, the relationship began to change. The cubs still kept their distance, but they watched Daniel with less suspicion. Maya started teaching him words in Cravathi. She would point at objects and say the Cravathi word, then wait for Daniel to repeat it. His pronunciation was terrible, but Maya seemed to find it amusing rather than insulting. Leo slowly stopped growling every time Daniel entered the cargo hold. The eldest cub even asked questions in broken galactic common. Where were they going? Why was Daniel helping them? What did he want in return? Daniel answered honestly. He was helping them because it was the right thing to do. He wanted nothing in return. He was trying to find someone in the Kravathi Empire who could be trusted to take them safely. But our people think humans are weak, Leo said one evening. We are taught that humans are scavengers, that you run from fights, that you have no honor. Daniel considered this. Maybe we are weak in the way you measure strength. We cannot break metal with our bare hands. We do not have fangs or claws. But we survive in other ways. We think. We plan. We adapt. And we protect those who need protection, even if they are not our own species. Leo tilted its head, considering this. Kit had started following Daniel around the ship. The smallest cub's leg had healed well, and Kit seemed fascinated by everything Daniel did. When Daniel cooked his meals, Kit would sit nearby and watch. When Daniel checked the navigation systems, Kit would ask questions about the buttons and screens. One night, Daniel woke to find Kit sleeping outside the cargo hold door. The cub had dragged a blanket out and made a small nest right next to where Daniel slept in his bunk. When Daniel moved, Kit opened one eye and made a soft chirping sound before going back to sleep. Daniel felt something warm in his chest. These cubs were starting to trust him. They were starting to feel safe, but the galaxy was not safe for them. Daniel had been monitoring the news feeds, and what he learned made him sick with worry. The story spreading through the information networks said that a human merchant had kidnapped 3 Kravathi noble cubs. There was a bounty on Daniel's head. Mercenaries and bounty hunters were searching for the Morning Star. The Kravathi government had made an official statement demanding the cubs' return, but they would not say where to bring them. That confirmed what Ambassador Kelvin had said. There was a conspiracy. Someone in the government wanted the cubs dead. Daniel had tried to find information about House Sereth. What he learned was disturbing. The cubs' mother was Empress Regent Sereth, the ruler of the Kravathi Empire. She had taken power when the previous emperor died suddenly 3 years ago. She had many enemies who wanted to remove her from the throne. If the cubs were killed, the empress would have no heirs. The rival houses would fight for control. The empire might collapse into civil war. Daniel realized these 3 small cubs represented the future of an entire civilization, and right now, only he stood between them and the people who wanted them dead. He also realized he could not run forever. The Morning Star was leaving a trail. Every time he docked for supplies, every time he used a communications relay, someone could track them. Sooner or later, the hunters would catch up. He needed help. He needed someone in the Kravathi Empire who was loyal to the Empress and could be trusted with the cubs' lives. Daniel spent hours searching through encrypted databases and back-channel information networks. Finally, he found a name. Commander Vex, captain of the Imperial Guard and personal protector to Empress Sereth. Multiple sources confirmed that Vex was fiercely loyal and had been searching for the cubs since they disappeared. But contacting Vex was dangerous. If the communication was intercepted, it would reveal their location. The conspirators would come for them. Daniel sat in the cockpit late one night, staring at the message he had written. Behind him, he could hear the cubs sleeping in the cargo hold. Kit was snoring softly. Maya occasionally murmured in her sleep. Leo kept watch even while resting, his ears twitching at every unfamiliar sound. They trusted him now. They called him Guardian in Kravathi, a title of respect and affection. Kit held his hand when the ship made loud noises. Maya smiled when he tried to speak her language. Leo had stopped seeing him as a threat and started seeing him as protection. Daniel could not fail them. He had failed to protect people before, and the guilt still haunted him. But these cubs had given him a second chance. They had taught him that sometimes running from responsibility was worse than facing danger. He sent the message to Commander Vex through an encrypted channel. Then he set a course for the meeting coordinates he had suggested. A neutral station on the border between Kravathi space and independent systems. It was a risk. It could be a trap. But staying on the run was no longer an option. Daniel walked back to the cargo hold and sat down near where the cubs slept. Leo opened one eye and looked at him. The cub seemed to sense something had changed. "We are going to meet someone who can help," Daniel said quietly. "Someone who will take you home to your mother. But I need you all to be brave a little longer." Leo sat up. "Will you come with us?" "I do not know," Daniel admitted. "Your people and my people have never been friends. They might not let me." "Then we will make them let you," Leo said with the absolute certainty of a child. "You are our guardian." Daniel smiled despite his worry. "Get some sleep. We have a few more days until we arrive." Leo lay back down but kept watching Daniel until the cub finally drifted off to sleep. Daniel sat in the darkness and hoped he was making the right choice. Hoped that Commander Vex could be trusted. Hoped that he could keep his promise to 3 small cubs who had become more important to him than his own safety. Outside the ship, the stars streamed past as the Morning Star raced toward an uncertain future. The attack came without warning on the 4th day of their journey. Daniel was teaching Maya how to read the navigation display when the proximity alarm screamed. 2 ships had dropped out of hyperspace directly behind them. The sensor readings identified them as mercenary vessels, heavily armed and built for speed. "Get to the cargo hold," Daniel shouted. "Strap into the emergency seats. Now." The cubs ran. Daniel threw himself into the pilot seat and pushed the engines to maximum power. The Morning Star lurched forward, but the mercenary ships were faster. They closed the distance quickly. Weapons fire lit up the space around them. Daniel twisted the ship hard to port, avoiding the first barrage. The Morning Star was not built for combat. She had light shields and no real weapons. All Daniel could do was run and hope his piloting skills were enough. A blast struck the aft shield, and the ship shuddered. Warning lights flashed across the console. The shield was at 60% and dropping. Daniel sent the ship diving toward a nearby asteroid field. It was risky. One wrong move, and they would smash into a rock, but the asteroids would give him cover and make it harder for the mercenaries to get a clean shot. The Morning Star plunged into the field. Rocks tumbled past on all sides, some as small as his fist, others as large as buildings. Daniel's hands moved across the controls with the muscle memory of his security officer days. He had trained for high-speed pursuit in difficult terrain. He just never thought he would need those skills again. Behind him, the mercenaries followed. They were good pilots, staying close despite the obstacles. But they were flying larger ships that could not maneuver as quickly. Daniel used that advantage, threading through gaps that forced the mercenaries to slow down or go around. Another blast clipped the port side. The ship groaned. More warning lights. The shield was down to 30%. One more direct hit, and they would be in serious trouble. Daniel heard Kit crying in the cargo hold. Maya was trying to comfort her sibling while Leo shouted questions about what was happening. "Stay strapped in," Daniel called back. "Hold on tight." He saw an opportunity. A large asteroid ahead had a crater on one side. If he timed it right, he could use the crater for cover and hopefully lose the mercenaries in the field. Daniel pushed the ship toward the crater and killed the engines at the last moment. The Morning Star drifted into the crater and settled against the rock. He powered down all non-essential systems. The ship went dark and quiet. The mercenaries swept past, their sensors searching. Daniel held his breath. If they detected the residual heat from the engines, they would find him. But the asteroid was still warm from being close to a nearby star. The heat signature might hide them. Seconds stretched into minutes. The mercenary ships circled the field, searching. Daniel watched their positions on his passive sensors. They were growing frustrated. They separated to cover more area. That was what Daniel had been waiting for. When the mercenaries were far enough apart, he powered up the engines and shot out of the crater in the opposite direction. He pushed the Morning Star to maximum speed, racing away from the asteroid field. One of the mercenary ships spotted them and gave chase. But it was too far away. By the time it turned around, Daniel had built up enough lead. He plotted a jump to hyperspace and prayed the coordinates were clear. The Morning Star jumped. The stars stretched and blurred. They were safe again. Daniel slumped in his seat, his heart pounding. His hands were shaking from adrenaline. That had been too close. He heard footsteps behind him. Leo appeared in the cockpit doorway, eyes wide. That was amazing. How did you do that? Training, Daniel said. And luck. Mostly luck. Humans are not supposed to be good pilots, Leo said. We are taught that humans are clumsy in space, that you lack the reflexes and instincts for combat flying. Daniel turned to face the cub. Your people teach you many things about humans that are not true. We survive by being adaptable, by learning, by using our brains when we do not have the physical advantages other species have. Maya joined Leo in the doorway. You fight differently than Cravathi would. We would have turned to face the mercenaries, fought them directly, and probably died, Daniel said bluntly. They had bigger ships and better weapons. Direct confrontation would have been suicide. So I used the environment. I hid. I ran. I lived. That is the human way. We do whatever it takes to survive and protect what matters. Kit appeared behind the other two cubs, still sniffling but trying to be brave. Were you scared? Yes, Daniel admitted. I was terrified. Being scared does not make you weak, Kit. It makes you smart. Fear keeps you alive. It is what you do despite the fear that matters. He checked the sensors. They had several hours before they needed to drop back into normal space. He needed to repair the damage from the weapons fire. But first, he needed to make sure the cubs understood what was happening. There will be more attacks, Daniel said. More people looking for us. The bounty on my head is very high. And everyone knows I have you three with me. We need to be ready. Teach us, Leo said suddenly. Teach us how to fight like you do. How to think like you do. Daniel considered this. The cubs were children, but they were also targets. They needed to know how to protect themselves. All right. But we do it my way. No charging into danger. No thinking you are invincible. You listen to me and follow instructions. Agreed? All three cubs nodded. Over the next day, Daniel taught them basic survival skills. He showed them how to read the sensor displays and understand what the different alerts meant. He taught them how to use the emergency equipment. He explained the basics of ship systems so they would know what to do if something went wrong. He also taught them about human tactics, how to use terrain for cover, how to retreat when outnumbered, how to think several steps ahead instead of just reacting to immediate threats. This is not how we are taught, Leo said during one lesson. Cravathi warriors believe in strength and honor. Facing your enemy directly. Fighting until victory or death. That works when you are stronger than your enemy, Daniel said. But what do you do when you are weaker? When you are outnumbered? When direct confrontation means certain death? Do you just accept defeat? Our people would say that dying with honor is better than living with shame, Maya said thoughtfully. But you do not think that way. I think that living means you can fight another day, Daniel said. I think that protecting the people who depend on you is more important than pride. I think that coming home alive is better than being remembered as brave but dead. Kit, who had been listening quietly, said something in Cravathi. Maya translated. Kit says you are the bravest person we know because you are afraid, but you do it anyway. Daniel felt his throat tighten with emotion. Thank you, Kit. That means a lot. That evening, Daniel received a response to his message to Commander Vex. The communication was brief and encrypted. Vex confirmed he was loyal to the Empress and had been searching for the cubs. He agreed to meet at the neutral station. But the message included a warning. General Krath, commander of the Imperial military, had taken control of most of the fleet. He was the one behind the assassination attempt. The Empress was being held under house arrest in the palace. Krath wanted the cubs dead so he could seize power. The conspiracy was worse than Daniel had feared. This was not just a few traitors. This was a full military coup. Daniel called the cubs together and explained the situation. They deserve to know the truth. Our mother is a prisoner? Maya asked, her voice small and scared. Yes. But Commander Vex and his loyalists are trying to rescue her. If we can get you to safety and prove you are alive, it will undermine Krath's position. The other noble houses will not accept his rule if there are legitimate heirs. We need to rescue her, Leo said fiercely. We cannot hide while our mother is in danger. You are children, Daniel said gently but firmly. Your job is to survive. Let the adults handle the fighting. You keep saying we are children, Leo said. But you also train us. You teach us. You treat us like we are important. Which is it? Daniel sighed. You are children. You are important. Both things are true. You are important because you represent the future. Because your survival means your people will have legitimate leadership. Because your mother needs to know you are safe. That is why the adults fight. To protect you. Kit moved closer to Daniel and leaned against his side. What happens when we meet Commander Vex? Do we leave you? I do not know, Daniel said honestly. Commander Vex will take you to your people. To safety. That is what matters. But you are our guardian, Kit said. We need you. You have each other. You have your mother. You have an entire empire that will protect you once you are home. We have you, Maya said quietly. You are family now. Do humans not value family? Daniel felt tears sting his eyes. He had not expected this. Had not expected these 3 alien cubs to burrow so deeply into his heart. Humans value family above everything else, he said softly. You 3 have become my family. But sometimes, family means letting go. Letting you go somewhere safe where I cannot follow. We will make them let you follow, Leo said with absolute determination. We are nobility. We have some authority. We will not leave you behind. Daniel hugged all 3 cubs close. They pressed against him, purring softly. It was a Cravathi sound of contentment and trust. The first time they had purred around him. We will see what happens, Daniel said. But whatever happens, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you will be safe. Promise me you will take care of each other. Promise me you will grow up to be good leaders who remember that strength comes in many forms. We promise, they said together. The Morning Star continued its journey toward the neutral station. Daniel knew the meeting with Commander Vex would change everything. Either they would find help and safety, or they would find betrayal and death. But for now, in this moment, he had 3 cubs who trusted him. 3 lives he had protected. 3 reasons to keep fighting despite the fear. He had made a promise to a dying ambassador. He had given his word to protect these cubs. And Daniel Hayes never broke a promise, no matter the cost. The station appeared on sensors 2 days later. It was a massive structure. Neutral territory where ships from all species could dock and trade. Security forces kept the peace. No weapons were allowed in the public areas. Daniel studied the station carefully. Multiple ships were docked. Some were traders like himself. Others were military vessels from various species. He spotted 3 Cravathi warships bearing Commander Vex's insignia. That should have been reassuring. But it also meant if this was a trap, he would have no chance of escape. Are you ready? Daniel asked the cubs. They nodded, though Kit looked scared, and Maya kept checking to make sure her siblings were close. Leo stood tall, trying to look brave. Together, the cub said. We go together. Together, Daniel agreed. He docked the Morning Star and prepared to face whatever came next. Commander Vex was waiting in the docking bay with 6 armed guards. The Cravathi commander was massive, even for his species. His fur was deep orange with black stripes that seemed to shimmer under the station lights. His armor was ceremonial but functional, marked with the symbols of the Imperial Guard. When he saw the cubs emerge from the Morning Star behind Daniel, his stern expression softened. Young princes, Vex said in Cravathi, dropping to one knee. Your mother has been searching for you. She feared you were dead. Leo stepped forward, trying to stand tall and regal, despite being small and scared. Commander Vex, we live because of the human. Daniel Hayes protected us when others tried to kill us. Vex turned his golden eyes to Daniel. The commander's expression was unreadable. A human. Protecting Cravathi nobility. This is unusual. They needed help, Daniel said simply. Ambassador Kelvin asked me to keep them safe. I gave my word. Many humans would have turned them over for the bounty, Vex said. The price on your head is substantial. Yet you chose to risk everything for cubs that are not your own species. They are children. That is reason enough. Vex studied Daniel for a long moment. Then the commander placed his paw over his heart in a Cravathi gesture of respect. You have honored your word. Few in the galaxy can say the same. For that, you have my gratitude. And the gratitude of the Empress. Maya moved to stand beside Daniel, placing her small paw in his hand. Guardian Hayes is family now. He taught us. Protected us. We will not leave him. I understand your loyalty, Vex said gently. But we must get you to safety. The conspiracy against your mother is deep and dangerous. General Krath controls most of the military. He holds the palace. He keeps the Empress prisoner. As long as you three are alive, you are a threat to his power. Then we are the solution, Leo said. If we are proof that his coup will fail, we need to show ourselves. We need to rescue our mother. Vex's expression grew sad. You are brave, young prince. But you are cubs. We cannot put you in danger. We have been in danger since the shuttle was attacked, Maya said. Guardian Hayes taught us that hiding is sometimes the best strategy. But he also taught us that sometimes you must face danger directly when it is the only way forward. Daniel felt pride mixed with concern. The cubs had learned his lessons well, maybe too well. Kit spoke in Krivathi, and Maya translated. Kit says that Guardian Hayes fights different than Krivathi, that he uses thinking over strength. Maybe we need both kinds of fighting to win. Commander Vex looked at Daniel with new interest. Is this true? You taught them human tactics? I taught them survival. Daniel said. How to use their brains. How to turn disadvantages into advantages. How to stay alive when everything is working against them. Interesting. Vex gestured for them to follow him. Come, we must speak privately. The station has eyes everywhere, and not all of them are friendly. They moved to a private meeting room deep in the station's secured section. Vex's guards stood outside while the commander activated a jamming device to prevent surveillance. The situation is worse than my message indicated, Vex said. General Krath moved faster than we expected. He controls the palace, the main fleet, and has support from 3 noble houses who believe they will benefit from his rule. My forces are loyal to the Empress, but we are outnumbered 3-1. What is his plan? Daniel asked. He claims the Empress is unfit to rule, that the cubs died with the ambassador, and therefore the imperial line is broken. He will execute Empress Sereth in 3 days during a public ceremony. Then he will declare himself emergency regent until the noble houses can select a new emperor. But if the cubs are alive, his justification falls apart. Daniel said. Exactly. Which is why he has assassins throughout the galaxy searching for them. If we reveal the cubs are alive too soon, Krath will accelerate his plans. If we wait too long, the Empress dies. Vex's tail lashed in frustration. I have been trying to find a strategy that works, but Krath's position is too strong. A direct assault on the palace would fail. Daniel looked at the tactical display Vex had brought up. The palace was a fortress, heavy defenses, loyal troops, multiple layers of security. A frontal attack would be suicide. But Daniel did not think like a Cravathi warrior. He thought like a human who had survived by being clever rather than strong. What if we do not attack the palace? Daniel said slowly. An idea forming. What if we trick Krath into bringing down his own defenses? Vex's ears perked forward. Explain. Krath wants the cubs dead. He has a bounty on me. What if I contact him directly and offer to turn them over? Claim I want the reward money. He thinks humans are greedy and weak. He will believe it. That is extremely dangerous, Vex said. If he suspects deception, he will not suspect, Daniel interrupted, because I will go to him. I will bring the cubs directly to his stronghold. He will let us in because he wants them dead, and he thinks I am no threat. Once we are inside, you create a diversion. Attack from the outside. While Krath's forces are focused on your assault, I extract the Empress and the cubs from inside. You would walk into the enemy stronghold surrounded by soldiers who want you dead, with no weapons and no support. Hoping to rescue a prisoner from the most secure facility in the Empire? Vex stared at Daniel like he had lost his mind. That is insane. That is human, Daniel said. Your people would never attempt it, because it goes against everything you believe about honor and direct confrontation. Which is exactly why it might work. Leo had been listening carefully. I like this plan. It uses the enemy's expectations against them. Absolutely not, Daniel said firmly. This plan does not include you three. You stay here with Commander Vex. We are part of this, Maya insisted. Krath will not let you in unless you actually have us. He needs to verify we are real. We have to go. Daniel wanted to argue, but he knew Maya was right. Krath would never fall for the deception unless he could see the cubs with his own eyes. They would be in immediate danger, Vex said. The moment you enter that facility, Krath could simply kill all of you. Not if he thinks he can use them, Daniel said. If I play the role right, make him believe I am just a greedy human who wants money, he might keep us alive long enough to verify the cub's identity. Maybe even try to get information from us. That gives us time for the real plan to work. Vex paced the room, his tail swishing with agitation. This goes against every principle of Cravathi warfare. It relies on deception, patience, and exploiting the enemy's arrogance, rather than meeting them in honest combat. Yes, Daniel said. Which is why a Cravathi could never do it. But I am not Cravathi. I do not care about honor in battle. I care about winning. I care about getting these cubs and their mother out alive. The commander stopped pacing and looked at Daniel with something like respect. You truly are willing to die for them. I am willing to do whatever it takes to keep my promise. Kit moved to Daniel's side and pressed against his leg. We trust Guardian Hayes. He has not failed us yet. Vex looked at the three cubs, then back at Daniel. I must be as insane as you to consider this. But I see no other option. Krath's execution ceremony is in 3 days. We do not have time for a better plan. He brought up a detailed schematic of Krath's military command center. This is where he is based. It is heavily fortified, but if you can get inside and cause enough chaos during my assault, you might have a chance. They spent the next several hours planning every detail. Daniel would contact Krath claiming he wanted to collect the bounty. He would bring the cubs to the command center. Vex would wait until Daniel confirmed they were inside, then launch a coordinated attack on the facility's main defenses. During the chaos, Daniel would locate the Empress and find a way to extract everyone. It was a terrible plan with 1,000 ways to fail, but it was the only plan they had. That night, as they prepared to leave, the cubs were unusually quiet. They understood the danger. They knew they might not survive the next day. Daniel sat with them in the Morning Star's cargo hold one last time. You have been the bravest cubs I have ever known, he said. You trusted me when you had no reason to. You learned and adapted. You became stronger not through your claws, but through your minds. I am proud to have been your guardian. You will still be our guardian tomorrow, Leo said, and the day after, and always. We are family, Maya added. Family does not abandon each other, no matter what happens tomorrow. Kit did not speak but moved into Daniel's lap and purred softly. They sat together in the quiet, knowing that the next day would change everything. Daniel had never wanted children of his own. His life was too unstable, too dangerous, but these three cubs had become his children in all the ways that mattered. He would protect them, he would save them, or he would die trying. Get some rest, Daniel said gently. Tomorrow we end this. Tomorrow we bring you home to your mother. The cubs curled up together, and Daniel kept watch over them through the night. He cleaned his pistol and checked his equipment. He reviewed the schematics of Krath's facility until he had memorized every corridor. He prepared himself for what was coming. When morning arrived, Daniel contacted General Krath's command center. He played the role of a desperate, greedy human perfectly. Claimed he had the cubs and wanted the bounty money. Demanded safe passage and payment before he would turn them over. Krath's voice came through the communication, deep and mocking. A human. Of course. Your kind always thinks of profit before honor. Bring the cubs to my facility. You will receive your payment. I want guarantees, Daniel said, making his voice sound nervous and greedy. I want safe passage out of Crevathy space once I collect. You have my word, Krath said. And Daniel could hear the lie in his voice. Krath had no intention of letting Daniel leave alive. Perfect. The general's arrogance would be his downfall. Daniel ended the communication and looked at the cubs. Are you ready? They nodded, trying to look brave despite their fear. Remember the plan. Stay close to me. Do exactly what I say. And if things go wrong, you run. You find Commander Vex's forces. You survive. That is the most important thing. We will all survive, Leo said with determination. Together, Daniel wished he could believe that. But he had fought enough battles to know that not everyone made it home. He just had to make sure the cubs did. Whatever the cost. The Morning Star undocked from the neutral station and began the journey to General Krath's command center. Behind them, hidden among the civilian traffic, Commander Vex's ships moved into position. The final battle was about to begin. General Krath's command center was even more intimidating in person than it had appeared in the schematics. The facility was built into an asteroid, with massive weapons platforms protecting every approach. Warships patrolled in formation around it. Sensors swept constantly for threats. It was designed to withstand a full military assault. But it was not designed to stop one small cargo ship carrying a supposedly greedy human merchant. The Morning Star was scanned 3 times before being allowed to dock. Armed guards met Daniel and the cubs at the airlock. They were searched for weapons. Daniel's pistol was confiscated immediately. He had expected that. The guards were professional but clearly viewed Daniel with contempt. To them, he was just another weak human motivated by greed. They barely glanced at the cubs beyond confirming there were 3 of them. They were escorted through corridors filled with soldiers and security systems. Daniel memorized the layout as they walked. Emergency exits. Guard positions. Security camera locations. He would need all of it later. General Krath waited in a command center overlooking the main operations floor. He was larger than Commander Vex, with darker fur and scars that marked him as a veteran of many battles. His amber eyes studied Daniel with open disdain. So this is the human who has caused me so much trouble, Krath said in perfect galactic common. You do not look like much. How did someone as pathetic as you evade my hunters for so long? I got lucky, Daniel said, keeping his voice submissive and nervous. I just want the bounty money and safe passage. Then you never have to see me again. Krath laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Humans, always thinking of profit. You have no honor, no dignity, just greed. He turned to the cubs. Are these the whelps? Come here, let me look at you. The cubs moved forward slowly. Daniel had coached them on how to act. Scared but not too scared. Defiant but not aggressive. They needed Krath to believe they had not bonded with Daniel, that they were just prisoners he was delivering. Leo stood in front of his siblings, trying to look brave. Krath leaned down and examined them carefully. The right ages, the right markings, noble house features. He grabbed Leo's chin roughly, tilting the cub's head. Yes, these are Empress Sareth's spawn. So I get my payment? Daniel asked, playing his role. In time, Krath said dismissively. First, I have questions. Where have you been hiding? Who else knows the cubs are alive? Did you contact anyone in the Imperial Guard? I have been moving around, Daniel said, staying off the main routes. I did not contact anyone because I did not know who to trust. Then I heard about your bounty, and figured I could make some money. Krath studied him with suspicion. You expect me to believe you kept these cubs alive for weeks out of the goodness of your heart, and only now decided to turn them in? I thought about ransoming them back to the Empire. Daniel lied. But I heard the Empress was under house arrest. Figured that would not work out well for me. Your bounty seemed safer. The general seemed to accept this explanation. Human greed was something he understood and expected. Very well. You will be paid. But first, you will remain here as my guest, while I verify certain details. Guards, take the human to detention. Put the cubs in the holding cells on level 3. Daniel's stomach dropped. He had hoped they would all be kept together. Being separated made the plan much harder. But he could not protest without raising suspicion. The guards grabbed Daniel's arms. The cubs cried out as they were pulled in a different direction. Kit reached for Daniel, calling him guardian in Kravathi. Maya and Leo struggled against the guards holding them. Quiet, whelps, Krath snapped. You are going where you belong. The traitor's spawn will soon join their mother in death. Daniel let himself be dragged away, but he had heard what he needed. The Empress was here. In this facility. That confirmed Commander Vex's intelligence. Now he just needed to find her and get everyone out before Krath realized what was happening. The detention cell was small and bare. Daniel was thrown inside, and the door sealed behind him. He sat on the metal bench and waited. He had a small device hidden in his boot that the guards had not found. It was a communications beacon, modified to send a single short-range burst. He activated it. The signal would tell Commander Vex they were inside. The attack would begin in 30 minutes. Daniel used the time to work on the cell door's control panel. He had learned basic security systems during his time as a colony officer. These locks were more advanced, but the principles were the same. He just needed the right tools. He used a piece of metal he had loosened from the bench frame. It took 15 minutes of careful work, but he finally triggered the emergency release. The door slid open with a soft hiss. The corridor outside was empty. The guards had assumed a locked cell would hold a human. They had underestimated him. Again, Daniel moved quickly and quietly through the corridors. He had memorized the facility layout. Level 3 holding cells were 2 floors down. The Empress would be in the high-security detention area on level 5, but he needed the cubs first. He found a maintenance closet and grabbed a guard's spare uniform. It did not fit well, but in dim lighting it might buy him a few seconds before someone noticed. He also found a plasma cutter that maintenance crews used for repairs. It was not a weapon, but it could cut through security doors. Level 3 was more heavily guarded. Daniel waited for a patrol to pass, then slipped into the holding cell area. The cubs were behind a reinforced door with electronic locks. He used the plasma cutter on the control panel, shorting out the system. The door opened. The cubs rushed to him. Kit hugged his leg while Maya and Leo looked relieved and frightened at the same time. You came for us, Maya whispered. I will always come for you, Daniel said. Now we need to get your mother and get out of here. Stay close and stay quiet. They moved through the facility like ghosts. Daniel used his knowledge of the layout and his security training to avoid patrols. When they had to pass cameras, he timed their movements for the brief moments when the sensors swept away. Level 5 was the most secure area. The Empress was being held in a cell designed for the most dangerous prisoners. 2 guards stood outside her door. Daniel did not have time for subtle tactics. He walked directly toward the guards wearing the stolen uniform. When they turned to challenge him, he used the plasma cutter to disable their weapons. Then he hit them both with moves he had learned in hand-to-hand combat training. They went down hard. He opened the cell door. Empress Sereth was chained to the wall, her elegant robes torn and dirty. She was thinner than her pictures, beaten down by captivity, but when she saw the cubs, her eyes went wide with disbelief. My children, she whispered in Kravathi. You are alive. The cubs ran to her. Leo, Maya, and Kit pressed against their mother, crying and speaking rapidly in their own language. Daniel used the plasma cutter to break her chains. We need to move, Daniel said urgently. Commander Vex is about to attack the facility. We need to be ready to extract during the chaos. The Empress looked at Daniel for the first time. You are the human, the one who saved them. Yes, we can talk later. Right now we need to survive. Alarms started blaring throughout the facility. Vex's attack had begun. The building shook as weapons fire struck the outer defenses. Soldiers ran through the corridors, heading to battle stations. Daniel led the group away from the main security areas. They needed to reach the docking bay where the Morning Star was held. But between them and the bay were dozens of soldiers and multiple security checkpoints. They made it 3 levels before they were spotted. A patrol saw them and raised the alarm. Daniel pushed the Empress and Cubs behind a corner as weapons fire filled the corridor. "We are trapped," Maya said. "Not yet," Daniel said. He accessed a nearby control panel and activated the facility's emergency protocols. Bulkhead doors began sealing throughout the complex. Fire suppression systems activated, filling corridors with foam and reducing visibility. Emergency lighting kicked in, making everything red and difficult to see clearly. Chaos. Just what Daniel needed. They moved through the confusion, using the emergency protocols to their advantage. The security systems were now working against Krath's own forces. Sealed doors blocked soldiers from reaching them. Foam made it hard for anyone to see or shoot accurately. But they were still outnumbered and trapped deep in the facility. Then they rounded a corner and came face to face with General Krath himself. The massive Cravathi blocked their path, flanked by his elite guards. His expression was one of rage and disbelief. "You," Krath snarled at Daniel. "This was all a deception. You never intended to turn them over." "I intended to save them," Daniel said calmly. He positioned himself between Krath and the Cubs. "And I intend to get them out of here. You are one human against my entire command. You cannot win. I do not need to win. I just need to survive long enough for Commander Vex to get through your defenses." And based on those explosions, I would say he is making excellent progress. Krath's expression twisted with fury. "You think you are clever. You think your pathetic human tricks will save you. I will kill you myself. Then I will kill the whelps and their traitor mother." The Imperial line ends here. He moved forward, drawing a ceremonial blade. His guards raised their weapons. Then the Cubs did something Daniel had not expected. They stepped around him to stand between Daniel and Krath. Leo, Maya, and Kit formed a protective line. Small and young but absolutely fearless. "He is our guardian," Leo said in Cravathi. "He saved us when you tried to kill us. He protected us when the entire galaxy hunted us. He taught us that strength is not just in claws and fangs, but in courage and sacrifice." "You will not touch him," Krath laughed. But there was uncertainty in his eyes. He had never seen Cubs stand against an adult Cravathi warrior. It went against every social structure his species had. "Foolish whelps. He has poisoned your minds with human weakness. He has shown us true strength," Maya said. "The strength to protect those who cannot protect themselves. The strength to choose mercy over revenge. The strength to sacrifice everything for others. That is what real warriors do." The Empress, still weak but standing tall, added her voice. "They speak truth, Krath. You have strength but no honor. Power but no wisdom. You would have led our people to ruin. These Cubs have learned more about leadership from this human than you ever knew." Krath's face contorted with rage. He lunged forward with his blade raised. Daniel was faster. He grabbed the plasma cutter and fired it not at Krath but at the ceiling above them. The support beam he hit was already weakened from the attacks on the facility. It collapsed, bringing down debris between them and Krath's group. "Run," Daniel shouted. They ran through the shaking facility as Commander Vex's forces breached the main defenses. Loyalist troops poured into the command center. Fighting erupted throughout the complex. Daniel led his group through maintenance tunnels and service corridors that most soldiers did not know existed. They were close to the docking bay. So close, but the Empress was too weak. She stumbled and nearly fell. Daniel caught her and lifted her in his arms. She was surprisingly light, weakened by her imprisonment. "Leave me," she said. "Save the Cubs. We all get out, or none of us do," Daniel said firmly. They reached the docking bay just as Commander Vex's troops secured the area. The commander himself was there, directing his soldiers. When he saw them, relief flooded his features. "Get them to the medical ship," Vex ordered. Now, they ran across the bay as the facility continued to shake and crumble. Behind them, Krath's forces were falling to Vex's loyalists. The coup was collapsing. Daniel got the Empress and cubs onto a medical transport. Medics immediately began treating the Empress, while the cubs stayed close to her side. Vex approached Daniel as the transport prepared to launch. "You did it." "I did not think it was possible. But you did it." "We did it," Daniel corrected. "Your attack gave us the opening we needed. Still, walking into an enemy stronghold with no weapons and no backup, extracting prisoners from maximum security, and escaping while the building fell apart around you." Vex shook his head in amazement. "That is not courage. That is insanity." "Sometimes they are the same thing," Daniel said with a tired smile. The medical transport launched, taking the Empress and cubs to safety. Daniel watched it go, feeling relieved and empty at the same time. His promise was fulfilled. They were safe. Several days later, after the dust had settled and the coup had fully collapsed, Daniel was summoned to the imperial palace. The throne room was massive and beautiful, filled with Cravathi nobles and officials. Empress Sareth, recovered from her ordeal, sat on the throne with her cubs beside her. She looked regal and strong, every bit the ruler of an empire. Daniel felt out of place in his simple trader's clothes, surrounded by so much finery. The Empress stood. "Daniel Hayes, you saved my cubs when others tried to kill them. You protected them across the galaxy when you could have turned them over for profit. You taught them courage and wisdom. You risked your life to save mine. I can never repay such a debt." "You do not owe me anything," Daniel said. "I did what anyone should do. I protected children who needed help." "Not anyone would have done it," the Empress said. "Many would have ignored the distress beacon. Many would have taken the bounty. Many would have saved themselves rather than risk death for alien cubs. But you did none of those things. You chose compassion over profit, courage over safety, family over self." She gestured, and servants brought forward a collection of items. Titles, land grants, wealth beyond imagining. "I offer you all of this," the Empress said, "and a place in my court. You could live here as a noble, honored, and protected." I'm into. Daniel looked at the offerings. Then he looked at the cubs. Leo, Maya, and Kit were watching him with hope and love in their golden eyes. "I am honored," Daniel said. "But I do not want titles or wealth. I just want to visit sometimes. To see how they grow up. To know they are safe and happy." The Empress smiled. "Then I grant you something more valuable than gold. Safe passage through all Cravathi space. For you and any ship you travel on. The protection of the Imperial House. Now and forever. And a place in our family, if you will accept it." "I accept," Daniel said quietly. The cubs ran to him, wrapping their arms around him. Kit purred loudly. Maya whispered, "Thank you," in Cravathi. Leo stood tall and proud beside his guardian. Years passed. The legend spread across the galaxy. The story of the human who saved the tiger cubs became famous in 100 languages on 1,000 worlds. Some species viewed it as proof that humans were worthy of respect. Others saw it as an interesting anomaly. But to the Cravathi, it became something more. It became a lesson taught to every cub in the Empire. The lesson that strength comes in many forms. That true courage is choosing to protect others even when you are afraid. That family is not just blood and species, but the bonds you choose to honor. Leo grew to become a warrior known for his mercy. He never killed when he could win without bloodshed. He always sought diplomatic solutions before military ones. When other Cravathi asked why he fought so differently, he spoke of his guardian who taught him that true strength includes knowing when not to fight. Maya became a diplomat who built bridges between species. She learned dozens of languages and traveled to hundreds of worlds. She negotiated treaties that brought peace to war-torn sectors. When asked how she saw past species differences, She told them about the human who proved that compassion transcends biology. Kit became a teacher in the Imperial Academy. The smallest cub grew up to teach young Cravathi about other cultures, other ways of thinking, other definitions of courage. Kit's students learned that the galaxy was bigger and more complex than old prejudices suggested, and every lesson included stories of Guardian Hayes. Daniel continued his trading routes, though now he was never harassed or threatened. The Imperial protection meant safety everywhere. But more than that, his name was known. Guardian Hayes became synonymous with honor and courage across the galaxy. He visited the cubs regularly, watched them grow from frightened children into strong leaders, attended their ceremonies and celebrations, advised them when they faced difficult choices, and loved them as his own. The Empress became his friend. They would share tea in private gardens and talk about leadership, loss, and the future. She once asked him why he had never asked for more, never used his position for personal gain. "Because that is not why I did it," Daniel said simply. "I did not save them for reward. I saved them because it was right. Because they needed help. Because I could not live with myself if I had walked away." "That is enough," she smiled. "That is what makes you extraordinary, Daniel Hayes. Not that you are human, or clever, or brave, but that you genuinely do not seek glory. You simply do what is right, because it is right." The years turned to decades. Daniel grew older, his hair gray, his movements slower. But his mind stayed sharp, and his heart stayed true. The cubs became adults, then leaders, then legends in their own right. But they never forgot their guardian. When Daniel finally died, old and peaceful in his sleep on his beloved Morning Star, the entire Cravathi Empire mourned. The Empress declared a day of remembrance. His ship was placed in a museum, his story was carved in stone on 100 monuments. But the greatest monument was not stone or metal. It was the change he had sparked. Humans and Cravathi, once distant and suspicious of each other, began to work together. Trade increased, cultural exchanges flourished, military alliances formed, all because one human had chosen compassion over profit, and 3 cubs had learned that family transcends species. In the Imperial Palace, in the Hall of Heroes where the greatest Cravathi warriors were honored, they placed something that had never been there before. A statue of a human, not large or imposing, just a man in simple clothes. Kneeling beside him were 3 small cubs. The inscription read, "Daniel Hayes, Guardian." He taught us that the fiercest heart does not always have the sharpest claws. Sometimes it just has the courage to protect those who cannot protect themselves. And every year, on the anniversary of the day he saved them, Leo, Maya, and Kit would return to that statue. They would kneel as they did when they were cubs, and they would remember the human who became their family, the guardian who taught them that true strength comes in many forms, and that love and courage can bridge any divide in the galaxy.